This is Sean Monk,
And I'm TJ Cornwall.
and this is the Planet Film podcast feed. All right, so welcome everybody, or welcome back to episode 2 of the Planet Film podcast, even though this is kind of going to be the maiden voyage of it in its normal fashion. Last week we were just still trying to work out some of the kinks, but I think we've got it.
Long story short, we changed the name.
Basically, yeah. Change the name and just a little bit of a facelift for the segments that we're going to be doing and working on and everything. But, we think we got a good pattern down and a good flow of the show for you guys. So what have you been up to, Tim? How have you been the last week?
Well, I haven't been doing anything. Still in quarantine. Technically, I guess we're in phase 1, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Phase 1 of the staged reopenings.
I'm excited to get a haircut. That's why I'm wearing a hat.
Me as well.
I just can't. I'm so used to short hair. When I was younger, I used to have longer hair, but I don't do that anymore. But I can't wait to get a haircut. I don't know. I haven't really been doing much. I've been trying to play Horizon Zero Dawn a little bit, trying to get that done before Last of Us 2 comes out. It's probably not going to happen. Just can't get into it. I don't know why. There was one day where I played it for 2-3 hours straight. And I tried to play it a few days later, and I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, I know. I like the thing that has been killing me on all of this is my freaking head. In high school and before that, I had hair that was down to here, down to my shoulders. And now I can't just this having it this long on the side of my head, because normally I have it shaved on the sides, is killing me. I am dying in this hair, but also I don't know if I want to go to a hair salon or a hairdresser because that I forget what state it was, but there was a hair salon that reopened and 140 people were exposed to the virus. And it's that was 140 people in a week or so of being open. So I don't even know. I don't want to be part of the first wave. We saw what happened in 1917 with that. So it's basically, yeah. I definitely have just been hanging in there. I've been trying to watch a bunch of stuff, get everything ready for the podcast, working on the YouTube channel and building that up. But yeah. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and get right into our first segment, which is going to be new news. So right off the bat, biggest news of the week, everybody exploded on, I believe it was the 21st, when Zack Snyder held over the love of his life, Vero, a live stream.
Is that his? Sorry, real quick. Is that his theater? Does he have a theater in his house?
Oh yeah, where he was. That was definitely that was.
Well, obviously his house, but I was oh, he has a whole sound to everything in there. It looks like.
Yeah. It was nice. Actually, when I was watching it, the main thing that I was thinking was that was because for those who don't know, me and Tim both work, or me and TJ, sorry, both work at a movie theater where we live. And when I was watching that, I was the amount of work that it takes to get a sound system and a projector all hooked up, and the fact that he was just controlling all of it with a simple TV remote. I was how expensive is that setup that he just has it all going to a Samsung skinny TV remote with 4 buttons that controls everything. I was how? Oh my god! It looked good, and the chairs were amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he held a watch along of Man of Steel, which is obviously the first movie in the DCEU. For I think it was a couple thousand fans. And then at the end, there was a major announcement. He brought Henry Cavill onto the stream. They had a little bit of a conversation, and then they did a little Q&A thing. And then right at the end, he flashed up on the screen the logo for the Snyder Cut, or as it's going to be called officially, Zack Snyder's Justice League, coming to HBO Max, summer of 2021. It's crazy to think that it's been so long, but since 2017, since Justice League came out, fans have been clamoring and, hashtag release the Snyder Cut. I mean, it basically became a meme in itself for 3 years. I mean, it's been crazy long amount of time. Now we're finally getting confirmation from Warner Brothers and Snyder that it's actually going to be happening on HBO Max, as a lot of people had speculated. So just initial thoughts. What are your thoughts on the fact that the Snyder Cut lives and it's actually going to be happening, coming to HBO Max in summer 2021?
I think it could be good, but I think it could also be bad. Well, first, one thing about the movie, it better be good. Because if it's not good, then it's going to be like, well, one, HBO will be like, or Warner Brothers in general will be like, well, I spent $20-30 million on something that is maybe just as bad as what we put out, 3 years ago.
Or worse.
Or worse, exactly. But I feel like it's a good move because it'll get people excited about the streaming service, obviously. I was just thinking the other day, I might just get HBO Max like when it comes out in 2 days, right? It's a 27th, I think it is.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I might just get it. I don't know why. Is there anything like launching with it? Like anything like new?
Let's see. I don't think so. I think it's going to be mainly their content. I think right now they're focusing a lot on the like exclusive titles that they're going to have, like like we were talking about the other day, was it's going to be the exclusive American home of the entire library of Doctor Who and other BBC titles, which I think is a big selling point because I'm a huge BBC fan and I watch like all their or most of their programming and stuff, and I have a difficult time getting it. Like, not to call out any company in particular, but my current internet and television provider said that I was supposed to have BBC America in my plan, but it is never available when I log into when I go onto the TV. But so it's just very annoying. So it's going to be nice. I know one big thing for me is to have that BBC library in there, but I think they're really just focusing on like bringing all of Warner Brothers shared content under one roof,
one place. Yeah,
exactly. And kind of having having finally like a definitive HBO. Cause I feel like for a while, like, I mean, if you think about it, HBO, what it originally started as, it kind of wasn't, but when you got into like the 2000s and stuff and you start getting shows like The Wire and The Sopranos, it kind of, in essence, was like the first kind of streaming platform, at that time, because the infrastructure of Netflix and stuff on the internet wasn't really around. It was just kind of a streaming service that you would call your cable company to attach to your service. And then you would unlock all these titles. So it just makes a logical step. I mean, they already had 2 streaming apps already. They had HBO Go and HBO Now, depending on how you pay for HBO. Now I'm assuming they're just going to get rid of HBO Go HBO Now.
I have. Okay. I hope not.
Well, because HBO Go was always like, hey, if you pay for this through your cable, HBO Go is how you get the app.
Yeah.
But like HBO Now is just paying for HBO independently. But I don't understand. I don't see a world where HBO Now and HBO Max coexist, because I mean, basically, what is the difference? Like, you're paying the same amount or like $1 less, but you just get all that's on HBO. You know what I mean? You don't get anything extra.
Yeah.
But either way, I just think it's going to be very interesting to see how the streaming platform does.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be much more. I don't think it's going to be as big, but I think it's going to be much more in the vein of Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus than like Apple TV Plus, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and Quibi, which we don't talk about Quibi. Yeah, we don't talk about Quibi. I mean, we can talk about that too if you want. Like, the whole idea of Jeffrey Katzenberger, when he came out, he came out and he said that he was disappointed because he felt that the pandemic made it a bad release window for their streaming service.
Yeah.
And it's like it's the perfect.
Yeah, I can see how
streaming
you could go both ways with that by saying that, well, one, it's good because all these people are home, they have more time to watch content. But at the same time, you're also competing with Hulu, Disney, Netflix,
everything else is out
everything
there.
else. So I get like what he's saying, but at the same time, it's like if you look at what they came out with, nothing really like grabs you.
Exactly. Like you can watch one of the Hemsworth brothers be like hunted or something in that show. What is it? You got
there's the Sophie Turner one. I don't know what it's about, but
yeah, I have no idea. If you're a huge Reno 911 fan, like they came out, but like think of how many shows over the shows or movies or stuff have had like a digital short over the last like couple of years. You know what I mean? Like whether it's for YouTube or somebody, like I think it was just last year Xfinity did that digital short like ET sequel that like over, and like they're great, like they're so like fun to watch, but it's like that's it. It's like a novel concept. You know what I mean? I don't understand why they think that being able to watch like 10 minutes of like a Reno 911 special is something that is going to get people to subscribe to their service. Like I just don't even understand that at all.
Isn't like like each episode's like 10 minutes, right? Is that what it is? Like that's the premise.
The premise. I think it's 10 minutes or less. So like 10 minutes is like the top. Like that's the longest they'll do.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is crazy. And then their whole thing is that, which I think they're getting sued over, is that they have the technology where you can either watch it in portrait or landscape, like, and it doesn't change the actual image or something. I'm not really sure how it works, but apparently they're getting sued over that, saying that they didn't even create that technology, and they're claiming that they did. So I have no idea. But
I'm just like looping it back. Obviously, we kind of went on a tangent, but looping it back to like the Snyder thing. I mean, you already see the Suicide Squad past director. He's like, I want to make my cut version now.
Exactly. And his thing was, because really the main thing that happened with David Ayer was the editing process. Like for him, it's not like the Snyder Cut. Like he said, I think he just said today, he tweeted it, I think Steve Weintraub from Collider, Frosty from Collider, that, you know, like his cut would not cost 20 to 30 million like Snyder's would, because Snyder has visual effects that aren't done, all this other stuff. Ayer was like, I just need like an editing booth and the original materials, and like we can make it happen. Like we can get this done. I just need that to do it. And I think he even called it, like he said, it would be a cathartic experience. He was like, it felt he felt like the movie was ripped away from him, and he said he thought it would be good for like his like mental health, basically, to be able to finish it and actually have people watch it. But I mean, I think why not? You know what I mean? If they're willing to shell out $30 million for this one, you know, it's no secret that I hated Suicide Squad. I thought it was a terrible.
I think I saw it once. I barely remember it. I don't remember liking it though.
I did not care for it at all. It was the lost me at the floaty dance thing at the end with
also though, do you want to do that when you have James Gunn already in production with his Suicide Squad?
Exactly.
Like you want to cross those over, and you know, I don't know, maybe people get confused. I don't know, but
yeah, that's true. Or do you take that as a advantage? Like, do you say, let's like when James Gunn's Suicide Squad releases in theaters, do you then say, all right, well, a month before that releases in theaters on HBO Max, we're going to release the true version or the Ayer cut.
Yeah.
Like, watch the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad before you go see the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you could kind of market it that way, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a hard thing because I think above all else, what HBO and the other studios don't want happening from this is people to get the impression that it's setting a precedent. because I don't really think it is setting a precedent. I think this is a very unique circumstance. I mean, like we talked about at the top, this thing was campaigned for years.
Well, just sorry, real quick. The other thing was that, like, without looking at David Ayer, and they're two different situations because when Snyder was, because they let him go or he left.
Who?
Snyder.
No, he had to leave because of
he had to leave because of his daughter, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so like it's almost maybe like if you're a Warner Brothers exec, you almost feel like guilty in a way, I guess, because they're trying to they wanted to kind of get rid of him anyway, didn't they?
Yeah, because they just it felt like growing like further and further. The studios are just kind of like going that from the direction they wanted.
That in his life gives them like a cover, not like a cover, but like he's like, oh, we can get rid of him now. Well,
it was very convenient timing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's almost like maybe you're like, well, maybe we should just give it, like, it'll get everybody off our backs, and we'll just give it to them, and then we'll put on HBO Max, and then we'll have a ton of people sign up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, either way, we'll keep an eye on the story. We'll take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just crazy to me that after 3 years, finally, it's happening. I just can't. It's still working on believing that it's real. But something else that is real that I'm very excited about is we have our next piece of news here, which is that S.A. Morales replaces Nicholas Hoult as the main villain in Mission Impossible 7 and 8, which that movie by itself, the casting for that is crazy. They're adding so many heavy hitters to that. I mean, you have the normal cast returning, and then you also add people like the original guy who ran the missions. I'm forgetting his name right now, but he's coming back all the way from the first movie, who hasn't been in it since the first movie. They're bringing in Haley Atwell, and then now with the casting of S.A. Morales from things like, he was just Deathstroke in season 2 of Titans, and he was also Del in the first season of Ozark, both really great performances. But I mean, this Mission Impossible 7 and 8, they're filming it like a 2-parter whenever they're allowed to return to filming. And it sounds like it's going to be like an Infinity War and Endgame of their franchise. Like, they're bringing back everybody that's still alive, like from the previous movies. I wonder if we'll get some sort of word or maybe even a surprise appearance by Jeremy Renner, who was in the franchise but then hadn't been in the last 2 of the movies. But it'll definitely be interesting to see.
When do you think they stop making these movies?
I think
till they're like, Tom, can't do this anymore.
I don't think you can tell Tom Cruise that. I think honestly, like, I hate to say it, but I think honestly something really bad would have to happen to him. Apparently worse than apparently something worse than leaping from a building and breaking your leg.
Oh, yeah.
That one, he just kind of was like, no, I'm good. Just delay it 5 weeks and I'll be back.
Well, you're talking about like the most recent one with his ankle, right?
Yeah. That, and then I love that then they kept that shot, the shot where he broke his ankle in the movie. and it really does. I mean, it really, honestly, they had great coverage of that shot because it made it look so real. Like in the movie, when he jumps, it's so great. But yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to those movies. Definitely going to be fun to see how those shape up, and if the 2-part finale, or if the 2-parter is going to be like a finale of the franchise, because right now we don't know. We don't know if it's just going to be a random 2-parter or if this is going to be a bookend and a cap on this franchise. All right. And then next up here we have What We Do in the Shadows, renewed for season 3 on FX and Hulu.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of people say that it's pretty good. I have watched maybe the first 5 episodes of it. I know my sister.
I've never seen it, so I don't know, but
yeah, I know my sister has been watching it and she raves about it. I know a lot of people like that series a lot, so it's good to see that it's getting a season 3.
Does real quick, sorry.
Yeah.
Does Tugga have anything to do with the show or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Him and Jermaine Clement are executive producers, and
Oh, okay.
they wrote and directed a couple of episodes, at least in season 1. I don't know if they have been a little bit too busy to direct in season 2, but I know at least Taika did direct in season 1. But yeah, they're definitely heavily involved in the show. And it's set in the same universe and everything. Just it's set in New York instead of New Zealand. All right. And then we have another big one here, which is the Batwoman situation. Pretty crazy here. So over this past week, it was very shockingly announced that Ruby Rose will be exiting the lead role of CW's Batwoman after just one season in the role. This has never happened with the DC properties before on CW, I should say.
Yeah.
Kind of took the world by shock and surprise exiting after one season when you have so many other heroes here that have not only stayed on their own shows for years and years and years, but they've moved shows around. I mean, you look at like Matt Ryan, like he came from the Constantine show on NBC, and then they brought him into Legends of Tomorrow. Now he has been on that show for years now. Just very weird situation. I know you don't watch the shows too much, but what do you make of all this with kind of the way that she exited and the suddenness of it, and also the reason that we got, which is that apparently she just didn't like the hours. I mean, we obviously I don't know how solid that is, but that's, I mean, the word on the internet that everybody's talking about is that it did not have to do with she did sustain an injury on set last year.
It didn't have to do with
they're
that,
saying that
correct?
It did not have to do with that. That it was just simply that she didn't like the conditions and the long hours. What do you make of this situation? And what do you make in general of just a lead on a TV show leaving and forcing them to recast after one season?
I feel like, well, she's got her, like, I know because I just looked her up like a few days ago. I didn't really know who she was. She's like a musician, and then she's also a model, correct? I mean, this could, like, leaving just like that could sour everybody else on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if people are like, oh, well, we don't want to deal with her, so we're not going to cast her. I mean, I guess I get it. I mean, the show wasn't doing very well anyway.
Yeah, I believe it was the lowest rated of the CW shows.
Yeah, not that you should, like, because it's like bad, you should just get up and quit or anything. But I don't know. I get it, but I also think you should probably just hang in there. If you have a job, you have a contract, you should probably fulfill it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm interested to see who they cast.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is that it's crazy because like this has not happened before. Like you obviously have in all these CW shows, you have different actors playing the same character, but they're always a different version of the character. Like you have in the CW shows, you have multiple versions of Superman because all the DC especially with the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover last year, you have all the different Earths of DC crossing over. But this is something that, like, I don't know. It's like, because they can't just say, oh, well, this is a different Batwoman. They can't just be like, oh, our Batwoman died. Now we have Earth 2's Batwoman. You know what I mean? Unless they did. I mean, if they did, that would be a crazy, bold strategy that would be definitely either you would be on board with it or you would be like, no. Yeah, exactly. It'd be like if because the CW has this new show, Superman and Lois, with the Tyler Hoechlin Superman who's on the CW shows. It'd be like if they had that for one season and then the next season they were just like, oh, actually, we're bringing back Brandon Routh, and Brandon Routh's going to be Superman in this show going forward. And it's like, well, you can't do that. Yeah. Or if they were like replaced him halfway through the season with Tom Welling, and we're like, oh, it's actually a sequel to Smallville. Forget it. You know what I mean? Like, it'll be very interesting to see what they do. if it's just going to be a straight up recast, or if they're going to work it into the writing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you, that is a weird situation.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. And then we have a little bit of I would say lighter news. It's not doesn't sound like a light subject matter, but I'm guessing it's going to be a comedy, which is we have Peter Dinklage and Jason Momoa reteaming to star in vampire film The Good, the Bad, and the Undead. It's reported in the synopsis that Dinklage would play Van Helsing, the last in a long line of vampire hunters, who has an uneasy partnership with a vampire played by Momoa, who has taken a vow to never kill again. Together, they run a scam from town to town where Van Helsing pretends to vanquish the vampire for money. So it sounds like they're going to be doing kind of a old school team up comedy.
Yeah.
It sounds like a premise from like the 80s or 90s, but you know, with the two of them, I mean, obviously they're both known for their incredible dramatic work on Game of Thrones.
Exactly.
But they're also both known for being like exceptional funny people, basically.
Yeah.
like behind the scenes and on camera. I would say more so on camera with like Jason Momoa. Like with Aquaman, some of the best stuff is his comedy. And most of the things that he does, he's super funny.
Yeah. I'm just thinking this could be the new like Kevin Hart, The Rock.
No, exactly. Yeah. Well, there was talk, I know, of the movie Twins from
good movie.
Yeah, with Danny DeVito and
and Arnold.
There was talk of these two teaming up to do a new version of that.
Well, they're doing a third one. Or they're doing the new one with Eddie Murphy.
With Eddie Murphy, yeah. That's the thing is that I think that the new movie with Eddie Murphy, I think that kind of scrapped the Dinklage Momoa idea of doing a remake, like the fact that they're just going to do a sequel instead of a remake. Because I think they kind of realize now, instead of just doing a straight remake, in order to bring in the box office, you really have to bring back the actors. You know what I mean? You see the same thing with Jurassic World and everything. Like, you got to bring back the original actors. Otherwise, people are just going to lose interest. But yeah, I mean, I think we'll see if it's any good. We'll see what kind of director is attached, or, you know, what kind of writers. But we'll see if it's any good. But I mean, definitely as a premise, at least, sounds very, very funny. I'd like to see if it is a comedy, I'd like to see a cameo from Hugh Jackman in it as Van Helsing, or work him in there some way. That would be very funny. Then we have a couple instances here. We're seeing this a lot more with the shutdown, with the movie theater industry still being on hold with theaters shut and shuttered around the country, is that we have Jon Stewart's of The Daily Show. His second directorial effort, Irresistible, will be bypassing cinemas and heading for premium VOD. It's a political satire film, stars Steve Carell and Rose Byrne. And then also we are going to be seeing the Tom Hanks World War II drama Greyhound, which was originally with Sony for a theatrical release, is now heading to Apple TV Plus. So we have two big movies there that were expected to be theatrical releases over this spring-summer season that are now going to be heading to various streaming services or just VOD in general. So what do you think about that? Do you think that we're going to be seeing this trend through the end of the year, beyond it? Do you think this is just the new norm? What do you think on this whole thing?
Well, considering when Universal said what they said about Trolls, I don't see it becoming normal, because I just feel like you just can't make that much. You can't make as much money on demand, in my opinion, as you can in the theater. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's going to be hard for theater chains to, you know, convince people to come back. But I just think, like, you just can't make as much money, like, on demand. Because it's even, like, what is it, like $20 usually? Like, that's what Trolls was, right? I think it was like $20.
That's
rent it.
That's the thing, is that when you talk about movies like that, that it's just so hard because, and they do say that, and this is just for VOD. This is just for video on demand. I'm not sure what the numbers are for streaming services. Like, I'm not sure what the deal is with Apple TV Plus's buying of Greyhound.
Yeah.
So let's say Tom Hanks, for example. I believe he wrote the film, and obviously he's the main star of it. Like, I'm not sure how much he's going to see, what his kind of deal was, how they recover, if it's just something that Apple just gives a one-time buyout of, like, let's say it's like, they're like, all right, how much was the budget? 20 million. All right, we'll pay you 35 million.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'll pay you 35 million and we'll just take it and distribute it on our platform. And that's all you get. But then with VOD, in the typical like theatrical model, studios usually take, you know, around 60, 50, 40, like that kind of middle, like kind of split the difference price range is what the studio usually walks away with. Disney is a different story. Obviously, Disney gets much more because and it's a think on that what you will, but they're Disney. That's how it works. Blame the mouse and the bobs. But typically on VOD, in the other case, the studio is taking more of a cut, like 80, 85, 90%.
Mm-hmm.
So they get more per purchase. But the problem is that you could have a family of 8 people that at the movie theater, that could translate into $120 or $150, $200 worth of ticket prices.
That just costs a lot. That's how you make money. Like, that's how a movie theater makes money. So
exactly. And that whole family is buying concessions, which helps the movie theater, and they're buying their tickets, which, let's say a family of 8, let's just say it's like $150, you know, like $150 for 8 tickets for a whole family to go see, like, let's say SpongeBob 3. SpongeBob 3, they're going to see it. It's $150. You know, the studio out of that, they're going to get out of that family of 8 like $100, $90, something like that. You know what I mean? Whereas if that same family of 8 does the VOD purchase, they pay Google Play or Apple or whatever it might be $20, and the studio gets $18. You know what I mean? That's $18 for the same 8 people to watch it, which is not going to be good in the long run. That's why you really have to pick, like, they really have to pick and choose which movies they do this with. Because you saw, like, Trolls was a big hit. Scoob, not as much as a financial hit, but you did have that initial pop of so many people talking about it online. But then it's like, well, maybe that same amount of people would talk about it online if it had come out in the theaters too. You know, and it's kind of an incalculable thing. It's kind of.
I think maybe they just start looking at it in the way it's like they pick and choose what they want to do with certain movies. Like maybe a smaller movie you want to release VOD, and then obviously like a bigger movie you put it in the theater. If you know the theater chains would agree with that, which that's debatable, but because I mean, how many big blockbusters do you get a year that everybody's like, oh my god, I have to see that?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I mean, you look at a situation like Tenet, which is the next thing we're going to talk about, is that Tenet debuts its new trailer in Fortnite, which we will definitely be talking about a little bit later in the show. We'll dive a little bit deeper into that whole situation in one of our later segments. But yeah, so Tenet releases that, and that movie, they're currently not saying what date. I mean, in the YouTube description for the trailer, it still says it's July date, but I mean, that could change at any time. The important thing is, in the actual trailer, there is no date listed.
There's no date.
Which means
it's coming to theaters. I mean, it ain't going VOD.
Exactly. It's just going to be crazy to see how everything shakes out with that and when theaters reopen. But as we've seen, you know, parts of the world are starting to reopen, including, I know, production now is set to restart on the Avatar sequels in New Zealand. So that crew is going to be going back to work. Do you care about the Avatar sequels at all? Are you looking forward to them?
It's been how many years?
All 1,500 of them.
How many years?
Right now, it's been 11 years since the first one came out.
It has to be amazing. I'm not going to go back and watch the first one.
Well, if you ask James Cameron, every movie he's ever done is amazing. So it's gonna be something. It's definitely gonna be something.
I don't know. If it would have come out like a year or two later, like why did it take so long?
I think it was one of those things of like similar like George Lucas with the prequels, like
yeah,
like oh, I had to wait for the technology to be right or something, or like that kind of thing.
They better be good if you're making us wait, however many years.
Yeah,
I mean, same with like the prequels. The prequels were like
like 15 years. Yeah, like 15 years after yours. But yeah. All right, and then second to last news clip here is the Back to the Future situation on Netflix, which is that in the movie Back to the Future Part 2, Marty goes to try and steal, spoilers for a 31-year-old movie. Marty goes to try and take the sports almanac from Biff, opens it up, and finds that it's a magazine called Ooh La La, which was a like adult magazine back in the 50s. And on Netflix, fans saw that the magazine cover was edited out. They like snipped out that section and removed it from the Netflix cut. And so Bob Gale, the co-writer and like producer on the Back to the Future series, got in touch with Universal and said, "Hey, get this off Netflix right now. Like, put the original version back on." They did. They replaced it right away. He begged people. He was like, "Listen, don't beat up Netflix. It's not their fault. It's the version that Universal provided them."
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, and that's
did they not know it was that version? Because I know I heard this version was like something that nobody knew existed or something like that.
Yeah, that's what Bob Gale said. He said, "I don't know why this exists, and I didn't know that it did exist." But that brings us to the bigger question, which is people are saying this with this news as well, even though this news was corrected. People are saying with this news, and then a couple weeks ago when the whole Splash situation happened with Disney Plus.
With Disney, yeah.
If you don't know, in that there is a one shot of Daryl Hannah exposed rear walking away into the beach, which was kind of like CGI covered with like hair, like a CGI hair extensions. It looked like a fur. I don't know. It was a whole weird situation, but basically they censored it. And so a lot of people are saying that this is a big reason that you should stick with physical media over these streaming services.
Yeah.
Because increasingly there's been articles over the past few weeks and months, even days, saying that services, like Netflix, like Amazon Prime, like Disney Plus, that you need to understand that even though you pay them for a subscription, they have the right to edit content.
Yeah, they still own the IP.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
They still own the IP. You do not.
Yeah.
So it's like they can edit it however they want. They can take it on and off whenever they want. And so what do you think about that? That whole case that streaming services, that you need to hang on to your physical media because you're kind of up to the whim of the streaming service guys.
Yeah. I mean, as far as Disney goes, they're going to do what they want to do. They have a brand to uphold, which when you think Disney, you think, family. I mean, if they look at that scene and they go, well, that's not for kids, then they're gonna censor it. I mean, somebody can cry about it all they want, but if you don't want it like that, you should go out and buy it physically. I mean, I only I only buy things that I think that I'll like watch over and over again. Obviously Disney didn't make these changes, but with would I rather have the original Star Wars without all the edits and stuff and like A New Hope? Yes. But will I watch it on Disney Plus with the edits? Sure. Do I like it? No, but what are you gonna do?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, and people have said that might have been like a stipulation that George put that they can't release the originals. But
yeah, my
thing is at this point, I mean, I have like a physical media collection. I have a big Blu-ray collection. But really with the last movie that I bought physically, last movie period that I bought physically was Infinity War. I bought the Steelbook of Infinity War. I used to buy the Steelbook of every Star Wars movie and the Steelbook of every MCU movie, and then I would buy other things here and there. But the last thing that I ever bought was the Steelbook of Infinity War, and I have not bought a single physical media thing since then. But also, I will say, I do not heavily, for my own movie collection, I do not heavily rely on streaming services. I buy the digital versions through my Google account because I know that with those digital versions that I pay full price for,
they're not going to edit them.
Exactly. And I have them in my collection. They're mine. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's another thing with going back to, physical media might be better in one sense is if there's ever anything wrong with my internet or something, or if I don't have the movie downloaded on my phone, like then I can't access it. But there's going to be stuff like that anyways. You can make the same case with physical media saying, well, what if you don't have a Blu-ray player? You know what I mean? You can't watch it. But I just think there's pros and cons to all of it, to whatever system you prescribe to. You know what I mean? Whatever one that you want to do. I think there's pros and cons to all of it.
Yeah, because I do both. I use streaming service a lot, but I also buy. I don't buy that much physical media. I also do that digital a little bit, but yeah, I don't. I just do both.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the trick, is that you have to find kind of a happy medium. Where you really like, if there's a movie that is on a streaming service, if it really means that much to you, just think about spending like the 15 or 20, like it's usually like $25 at most if you want like the 4K of something. Like, just if it really means that much to you, think about making that purchase. And if it really means that much to you, just keep doing physical. Just keep getting physical copies. But yeah, I mean, we'll definitely take a look at that stuff and talk about that more, if anything further unfolds or if there's more stuff found that has been edited down secretly or whatever. But the last thing that we wanted to talk about here today is maybe some not so good news, which is that John Krasinski's Some Good News YouTube show has sold to Viacom CBS, so CBS News, following a massive bidding war. And it has left some people with, kind of bad taste in their mouth with the whole thing. Just kind of thinking, just from the outside, the word you hear a lot nowadays is like optics, like of a situation, which is, it was kind of a nice, quiet thing that John Krasinski started, in his house. It was a very low budget, just kind of got fans to submit stuff.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say that was almost the charm of it, is how low budget it was, how off the cuff it was.
Yes.
I just, not trying to skip ahead here, but they bought it. I don't know. I don't think they said how much they bought it for.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at how much to see if.
But it's just, I don't think, even if they I don't know what they would do with it, if they put it on their streaming service or if they would, put it on TV or something like that. I just don't think it'll last, because it's not like he's going to be hosting it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I'm not seeing here the price. It's not saying how much it sold for. But I mean, if it started a massive bidding war amongst the news networks, it had to have been a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
If it started what this headline calls it, a massive bidding war, had to be a sizable amount. But and like you said, that is something to think about, which is it's kind of sad, because now it's not going to be him hosting it, or at least that's what the article makes it seem like, or what the news makes it seem like, that it will be somebody else hosting it, and that it'll just be something owned by CBS. And it's like, I would almost understand if they wanted to somehow cash in on it by acquiring the rights or something, but leaving it YouTube, leaving it with John, you know what I mean? Not kind of buying it, but not changing the format at all. That would be one thing. But from the sounds of it, it kind of sounds like it's just going to be swallowed up and regurgitated as something, packaged up in a big media bundle.
if they make it something, if they do something else, like if they put it on like CBS or something, it probably won't last that long.
Exactly, and you can't tell me that something like that airing on CBS is going to get more views than it airing on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like you could just pull it up on your phone completely free, watch it on YouTube, and he was making money because of the ad revenue and stuff. You know what I mean? Like just I'm not saying that he particularly put sponsors or anything. I'm just saying with YouTube, if he was monetizing the videos, I mean that's making a profit. But people can watch it completely for free. Now they have to make sure that they have cable. They have to do that, and it's probably going to be a lesser product. You know what I mean? It's probably going to be a lesser product. But anyways, I'm sure that's definitely something that we will have a follow-up on when we do know what kind of form the show takes at CBS, who the host is, if there's going to be a host, what the deal is, if it's just going to devolve into some kind of America's Funniest Home Videos knockoff, Lollapalooza extravaganza crap fest. I don't really know. But we will definitely be watching that with bated breath, wondering what is going to become of some good news. Well, that was our segment, New News. All right. And with that, we will be right back after these messages. And now it's time for Tell Me What to Watch. I don't know what to watch.
Tell me what to do. I don't know what to do.
Okay, this week we're going to be talking about Attack of the Clones, episode 2. Sean, you gave it a 2-star rating on Letterboxd. I gave it 1.5. So tell me your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the movie? What'd you like? What you didn't like? Did you like it at all? Where would you rank it in the prequel trilogy?
Well, the ranking easily, always, and forever, it's going to be, sadly, it's going to be my bottom.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless something truly worse comes along. Something almost worse came along not too long ago. I won't tell you what my number 10 on the ranking of Star Wars movies is, but I guess you could probably guess. In Blu-ray, in stores right now. But yeah, I would sadly say Attack of the Clones is bottom of the list for me, but it doesn't mean that there's not redeeming qualities that I enjoy watching about the film. I will say this. I feel it is a more rewatchable movie than the final installment in the saga. I think it's a lesser film, but I think it is more rewatchable as a Star Wars movie. I think if you're a big Star Wars fan, there's a lot of Star Wars in this Star War for you to Star War about. You know what I mean? It's a real big Star War. You get, Jedi interactions. You get really cool stuff about the Order. You get some Mandalorian flavor with some really great Jango Fett stuff. That the action scene, the fight with the two of them, with Obi-Wan and Jango Fett on the landing platform in Kamino, fantastic. Even the fact that it came out 18 years ago, the 4K release that's on Disney Plus looks incredible. That fight looks fantastic with the rain and the water and the two of them like sliding down the outside of the building and stuff. It looks fantastic. But yeah, so overall, I would say it's sadly probably the worst of the Skywalker saga, in my opinion. But I do think that there are some things that are redeeming about it.
Yeah. Basically, it's also my least favorite. It probably goes like Revenge of the Sith, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones. I think this is probably when I was a kid, the movie I rewatched the most out of the three. I think the one I've seen the least might be out of the three. It might be Phantom Menace, but it's probably Revenge of the Sith. I think I can't exactly remember. I think there's definitely like a few good things about this, but overall, I don't like this movie. It's still like I can still don't ask me why. Like I still kind of like rewatching it just because it's Star Wars, probably like Star Wars is Star Wars, But just stuff like I agree that scene, like that fight with Obi-Wan and Jango Fett is cool, but just like the Anakin and Count Dooku fight, Like, I don't know what.
I wrote that in my notes right here. Hang on, let me pull that up. I wrote here, I said the Anakin Dooku mini duel, if you want to call it that, is probably the worst duel in this entire franchise.
Yeah.
With the Lasertron close-ups, with the spinning, with the lights. There's not even, the worst thing about it is that I get like what he was going for. He was trying to make like a cool, like, making a lightsaber fight kind of more like spiritual or something, whatever you want to call it. But like, it just makes you think that they're just twirling them around because
exactly, yes.
But the thing is, like, the sound design in the prequel, in all of Star Wars, but the prequels especially, and Attack of the Clones especially, the sound design is fantastic in Attack of the Clones. There's not one sound of lightsabers clashing in that whole thing. It's just the
well, you got Christopher Lee's probably like just like
no, exactly. And Anakin just keeps doing that, like, just in front of him. And I'm like, the wide shot of it, like, there's like one cool shot, but I mean that thing, when the two of them, that is literally one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I have a question. So this is still on the same battle. Wasn't I don't know if you told it to me, you said this to me or somebody else. Wasn't like the whole thing about Mace Windu was that he was is he the only one that can deflect Force lightning? Because like Obi-Wan can, like, it goes into a saber, he can like absorb it into a saber. But like Mace Windu can like deflect it. Was that like the thing that's like Mace Windu's like special thing? Do you remember talking about it at all or not?
I'm not sure. I don't think that was with me. Okay. I'm not sure. I mean, just based on what's evident in the movies, that I would say that would be correct, because Windu, he blocks it, but it also deflects back out. Yoda like absorbs it, like, and then and then Obi-Wan absorbs it into his lightsaber, but does not bounce it back. So I mean, it could have been one of those things where it's just like George being George, where like he didn't really think about it, until the next movie, or it could be something that like is part of Mace Windu's style. But yeah, I mean, that whole, I don't know.
I love like
the third act has so many high point moments, and like for every high point moment, there's like 4 or 5 low point moments. Like I really think that the also another thing, the battle in the arena of Geonosis is fantastic, but I will tell you, man, the funny enough, in the Rise of Skywalker, as it is, I think one of the best characters in that film is C-3PO. I think that what they nail with C-3PO in Rise of Skywalker is some of the best C-3PO stuff we've gotten, because he's always making like jokes at his own expense, because they're not jokes. Like when they all fall through the sand and Poe says everybody's name but him, and he says, "You didn't say my name, sir, but I'm okay." Like, that's funny. But the C-3PO R2-D2 Three Stooges routine with the droids during this, what should be an epic, grand scale, huge battlefield battle, and you got 3PO going, "Oh, I'm so beside myself," and it's like, it's just, I feel like sometimes George just like, he doesn't know when to tone it down. Like with the humor, it's like, we get that it's for kids, but like, what are you trying to make here? You know what I mean? Are you trying to make this an awesome, huge battle, or are you trying to make it like a kids movie? Because you can't do both, and you can't just cut from Mace Windu decapitating a main character to C-3PO going, "Die, Jedi dogs!" Like, it's the weirdest thing in the world. Like, I don't understand.
The other thing I can't is just the what do you want to call it? I guess the relationship between Padme and Anakin in general. Like, okay, we start off the movie with, he's creeping her out, hard time. like big time.
Yeah.
Like she's like, I don't look at me like that. And then you cut to like magically, she's like infatuated with him.
Yeah,
like where does that come from?
Because he faked falling off of like
exactly
an animal, and she was like, "Oh no!"
I even brought up like I wrote in my notes like they're talking about. She's like, "Well, how would you make it work?" Well, I would have people vote on this, blah blah. She's like, "Well, that's a democracy, and what if people don't agree?" She's like, "Well, I'd make them agree." It's like he's literally like talking about being a dictator.
Yeah,
like,
he says that. She says that's called a dictatorship, and he says, "Well, is that so bad?"
Yeah, well,
yeah, if it works, yeah. And she's like, "Are you Darth Vader?"
Yeah, exactly.
And he said, "You shouldn't know about that yet. What are you?"
And throughout the whole movie too, it's like he's not for what. Like never at once do you feel him. Like maybe you feel maybe some points he's fighting with himself, but most of the time he's doing the wrong thing. Like he's like, well, my mother died, but I can't accept it, so I'm gonna go kill all these people. Or like, or just like he blames Obi-Wan for everything. He's like, he doesn't trust me, he's jealous, blah blah. It's like
that's also something I've written about is I know canon heads out there, I know that this was a standalone comic. I've read the comic.
Oh, okay.
But I want more of it, which is it has been 10 years of Anakin and Obi-Wan broing about the galaxy. You know what I mean? And we don't
see that.
Exactly.
I mean,
we don't.
It might be in the comic, but I've never seen it. So
no, exactly. and that's what matters. I love that it's in a comic. I've read the comic. It's great. It doesn't cover obviously everything that happens in the entire 10 years, but that's not what I'm looking for. But the problem is that in the movie, you get almost no sense that they have been working together for 10 years. I mean, other than the fact that obviously we know that they have been working together for 10 years, but I'm saying you get no sense of what that was like, of what the relationship that built was. Like, apart from that very first scene of the two of them in the elevator.
Yes.
Where they're talking about like falling into the nest of Gundarks and stuff.
Well, I was like, when was that?
Exactly. And like that's cool.
Yeah.
And there's like two moments in the entire movie. And the movie is 2.5 hours, and there are two moments where it feels like Obi-Wan and Anakin are connecting on a level that didn't happen in the film. And that's in that elevator scene. And then the scene where it's edited together with the slugs or whatever coming through the window to kill Padme, and their conversation in her living room, which is when Anakin is out on the like balcony or whatever, and Obi-Wan says, like, "It's your mother again, isn't it?" And like you can tell that like he really cares. They've talked about this before. He knows that Anakin has been having these nightmares about his mother. And like it kind of feels like, I don't know, it just like those are the only two things that felt like these characters have had any interaction in the last 10 years. I don't know. I just feel like it's that whole thing of like, you know, what people say in episode 4 when he says, "And he was a good friend." It's like you really only get that from the Clone Wars television show.
Yeah, because in the third movie it says, "You were my brother." It's
exactly.
Like, okay,
and it's like
when?
Exactly. And I understand. I have no problems with Obi-Wan saying that. I just hate that it was not shown in the movies. You know what I mean? Like, because in this one, sure, from Obi-Wan's perspective, he's like, "Oh, Anakin's my buddy. You know, that guy, like, he's great. Like, oh, I hope he doesn't get into any trouble with the senator."
Okay, that's the other thing I wrote down.
But Anakin is like, Obi-Wan's the devil, like the whole movie.
That's the other thing I wrote down is when they're like sending him off to Naboo, and what's the guard's name? I don't know. Does he have a name?
Captain Tanaka.
Yeah, when they're both like, "I hope they don't do anything foolish." It's like, okay, maybe you should say something.
Exactly.
They wouldn't have this problem.
Or send someone else.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Not 2 droids. Well, they do. Yeah.
That was the other thing that I want to talk about was how does Owen not remember owning C-3PO for years? Watto says that he sold Shmi to Klieg Lars years ago. How does Uncle Owen not remember in episode 4? Hey, didn't I own you for 5 years, 25 years ago? Didn't that happen, or was that somebody else? Like, it's not like C-3PO is any different.
Yeah.
He calls himself C-3PO in Attack of the Clones and in A New Hope.
Yeah.
The only difference is the paint job.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I do have a question for you that this is probably like a canon question. I'm just I have to find it. Hold on. Oh, okay. So the whole archives thing, like somebody erased Camino from the archives.
Yeah, Jocasta knew, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. So was that who deleted it? Was it Sifo Dyas technically? Because they say only a Jedi.
It was either Sifo Dyas or I think it was maybe Dooku. It was
one of that's what I assumed. Because I was like, well, definitely not Palpatine because he's not a Jedi or anything.
But great book, Dooku Jedi Lost. Yeah. Read Dooku Jedi Lost, man. Fantastic book. Goes into Sifo Dyas and Dooku's friendship, as well as the relationship between Dooku and Qui-Gon, towards the end of the book. Really great book. But I can't, if it does say which one it was, I can't remember, but it was definitely one of the two. It was definitely one of the two.
Because it was like Dooku recruited him, correct? Is that what it was? Or something like that? I thought they said that in the movie, or if I looked it up or something.
They didn't say it in the movie, but it was like it's weird. Like it's like there's information in the Sifo Dyas Clone Wars arc.
Yeah.
And then there's also information in that book. There's also info in a bunch of different places. But basically the gist is whether it was Dooku posing as Sifo Dyas to order the clones.
Okay.
Or and this I could just be completely forgetting, somebody could be screaming well, you idiot, they say it in this, and I'm like, I could just be completely blanking on it right now. But basically whether it was that because we know that Jango was approached by Dooku because he says, I only dealt with a man called Tyrannus. So we know that, but as far as removing it from the archives, I don't really know. I would assume it would probably have been Dooku who removed it. But yeah, I mean, it all just depends, basically.
And then just going back real quick to the sound design. Oh my god, the freaking
the seismic charges.
Oh, love it!
So good.
I love that sound. There was another sound that I wrote down. I forgot. I was like, the when they're doing in Coruscant, the speeder chase.
Yeah.
What's her name? The bounty hunter.
Oh yeah.
It's something like that. Her speeder sounds so dope. I just love that noise. But yeah. What else? Let's see.
Yeah. Also, I mean, something I just wanted to talk about too, which grinds my gears about this movie. Or I should say, not about the movie itself. Something I like about the movie that people I think unfairly criticize is the whole thing of why does Coruscant look like a 1950s diner?
Yeah.
The thing, it's a fictional universe. It can look like whatever you want. You know what I mean? Why does Tatooine? Why does Tatooine look like a Clint Eastwood desert town?
I felt like he was building. Whatever. He was building onto the universe with that. You got you're going in the bar. You got all these. It looks like grimy people. There's a guy trying to sell them death sticks.
Exactly.
I feel like you're adding more character to it.
And that's the thing too, is that you see both of those bars. You see Dex's Diner and that bar that they go into. They're both completely different atmospheres.
Yeah.
The bar they go into is not 50s at all. It's completely modern. To say I don't get why it's why is Dex's all a 1950s diner and ruined Coruscant? It's literally one place.
Yeah.
It's one bar. In Back to the Future, in the future, there was a thing called Cafe 80s. Did you say, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. They wouldn't have a bar just dedicated to the 80s. And it's it's a fictional universe. Anything can happen. Anything can look like anything. Anything can, whatever. It doesn't matter. I hate that. I hate that criticism of the movie because it's like you could say like, well, the laser swords aren't real. How does this make any sense? You know what I mean? Like you can't move something with your mind. What are you talking about, George? Are you like going crazy? Like it doesn't matter.
Even so, this is one thing I want to touch on that always like bothers me the entire movie. Well, now the script isn't, the greatest. And Hayden, I feel like, improves in the third movie.
Oh yeah.
I don't
Way
know
more.
why his delivery on every single line. I just can't. It's like he's jealous of me. Like why is he talk? My question is, why does he talk the way he does? Like why does he deliver every line with such like a softness to his voice? Like I don't know if I'm not that I'm supposed to care about him, because I do, but like in this movie, it's like you kind of want to hate him the entire time because he's bad. Like he doesn't show any, like I said before, he doesn't show any fight between like any conflict within himself.
Exactly. He doesn't have any conflict like brewing in his brain or heart or whatever. Like he's just so hot and cold throughout the whole movie. But I know exactly what you mean with the voice. It's like he's doing like the I'm haunted by the kiss you never should have given me.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just hope the kiss doesn't turn into a scar.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are you talking like that? Like just speak normally. Like in the third one, he speaks completely normal.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
he's like, oh, Grievous, I thought you'd be like you're shorter than I expected.
Yeah.
Like
he's like kind of witty and stuff like that.
He doesn't go like, you're shorter than I expected. Like I don't understand what that choice was. And I'm sure that it was just I mean, granted, the kid, he's so young in this movie.
Yeah.
And like everybody knows that George is not the best director for like the best actor's director. Like he just says to them, oh, just do what you want.
Here's the thing though, like I would say that, but like I feel like people judge him a lot on these prequels, but you also have other movies that he's made that have been like great.
No, exactly.
You have A New Hope, and then you have THX. What is it, like 1148 or something like that?
Yeah, 113.
And American Graffiti.
And American Graffiti, yeah. But I think but also if you look at that, like those movies are great.
Yeah.
But what they're not known for is their great acting.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Besides Alec Guinness, obviously, who didn't need to be directed. He could have directed everybody else. But I mean, you look at the behind the scenes with David Prowse as Darth Vader, and you have bring me the passengers. I want them alive. And it's like, okay, George, we're gonna have to change.
We're gonna have to dub that. Yeah,
we're gonna have to dub that. But yeah, I mean, the two things I just want to bring up that we haven't brought up yet, which I just want to end on, is where is it? Oh yeah, so the fact that Jar Jar really is the key to everything.
He's the key. That's what I wrote. I go, Jar Jar's the key. I mean,
Jar Jar really is, exactly. That's the thing, is that I don't think that people really give and performance aside, which I think Ahmed Best, who does get a nice cameo in this movie, I mean, plays Jar Jar obviously, but he gets a nice cameo at that bar. He has kind of the character itself, I think, gets unfair criticism. In same thing, he's way too slapsticky in Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
But the character itself and what the character is really is the key to everything, because you introduce this idiot in the first movie. And basically you introduce this idiot in the first movie, then that sets up the fact that he knows he's messed up. He's this person who was outcast from his society by Boss Nass himself, and feels bad about that, gets saved by this Jedi. He now is like attached to Qui-Gon. He's like, oh my God, you're the dude. Qui-Gon gets killed. This guy's thinking like, what have I messed up everything for everyone in this thing.
Yeah.
He's feeling awful.
He's like, I could do something good for once.
And Palpatine and Mazamita in that meeting with the senators, they straight up basically look at him and they're like,
into it.
exactly, they bait him into it and they say, oh, if only there was a senator who would be able to do that. And then Mazamita's like, if only
Senator Padme was
Amidala were here. And then, like, what is the guy to do? You know what I mean? Like, he thinks that this is what she would do. Like, he just wants to do what's best for her and for his people and what he thinks that everybody wants him to do. Should he have maybe spoken to Bail Organa and been like, hey, do you think she would want this? Like, or what? But I don't know, but he really is the key to everything. And I think honestly that particular aspect of the character, I think, is pulled off really well. The fact that you introduce this absolute idiot who then later you set up to be in a vulnerable position to make the wrong decision, even though he thought it was the right decision. I just think that that's a great way to use that character. And then, and then I mean, after Phantom Menace, that's pretty much the only way that they use the character.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Is he even in the third one?
He's at Padme's funeral at the end, and in the opening when they get to Coruscant, he's walking with the rest of the senators. That's it. Yeah. But yeah, that was like the main thing that I wanted to talk about, and then just also wanted to touch on. I do want a Klieg Lars in wheelchair Funko Pop. I wrote that down. And then I also wrote down another great thing that this movie does give us is the relationship and the brotherhood between the Jedi Knights themselves. So, like, what I'm talking about is like the relationship that we see between like Mace Windu and Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that, like, they're co-workers, but you can tell that there's more there. You know what I mean? That they care about each other. They've known each other basically their whole lives. You know what I mean? Like, and it's the same thing with Yoda. Like, once Yoda gets to that point, and when you see Yoda with the younglings, especially, like, he's joking around with them. Like, he's trying to make it as good an experience as possible because, and he says so much in this movie. He says, like, too arrogant much of the young Jedi have become or whatever. And you can tell he's really trying to hold this damn institution together. And he can feel it cracking and crumbling. And this war, and that's really why, to close this off at the end, that's why when Mace and Obi-Wan are standing by the window, and this is a great, the last 2 minutes of this movie, maybe besides Empire, is the best last 2 minutes of any Star Wars movie. Because you have the troops descending, and in anything else, you're like, oh, they have an army and everything, but you just know that that is a bad thing. Yeah. The fact that you are now seeing legions of soldiers in white armor with Sheev Palpatine overlooking it is probably not a good thing. But then you have that great scene, that fantastic scene right before the last shot, which is their wedding, of Obi-Wan and Mace Windu talking at the window saying, well, at least we won on Geonosis. At least there was a victory. We wouldn't have gotten it without the clones. And Yoda is sitting off in the corner, and then he breaks his meditation, and he just says, victory? That was not a victory. That was the worst thing that could have possibly happened. He's like, because he's the only one that can feel and know that this whole house of cards is about to come crumbling down. You know what I mean? And I think that is like, that's one of the top 3, maybe even best, like Yoda moments. I mean, probably not as good as his moment in Last Jedi. But that is like top 3 Yoda moments, definitely. When he says, you know, the shroud of the dark side has fallen, begun the Clone Wars have, because it's just, there's so much weight to what he's talking about. But that's just and that's why, that's one of the big things. It's like, it's a redeeming thing, because the Star Wars in this Star Wars movie is so good. You know what I mean? There's so much lore and mythos, and it's kind of what Dave Filoni talked about in that great speech, which is everything happens for a reason. You might not think that the movies are the best or the acting is the best, but the story is the story of the prequels is so sad and so good.
That's real quick. Sorry, the last thing I want to say is in defense of the prequels knows where it's going and knows where it has to go and knows where it needs to be to get to episode 4.
Exactly.
And that's the one defending thing that you could say about the prequels is 1 through 3, they're trying to tell a story to get to a certain point and they know where they're going. Whereas in obviously the sequel series, they didn't have a plan at all. They don't know what they're doing. Like JJ at the ninth one was like, just throw, Palpatine's back. Woo. And then we'll end it like that.
Exactly.
But this one, it's like you have, you start with Anakin as a young boy. They find him in the first one. Then he's, doing whatever he's doing in the second one. He's kind of growing up. He's not really fighting with himself. But you see the shades of like, okay, clearly he's not all he's cracked up to be. Like he's leaning towards the dark side. And then the third movie, you get it like where he becomes Darth Vader, etc.
Exactly.
But like I said, that's the one of the things that you could say that is like the saving grace of the prequels is that they have a story that they need to get to, and they get there, and they have an end game. And then they get there, unlike obviously the sequel series or trilogy.
Exactly. And well, those are just and the last thing we wanted to say is, as the name of the segment entails, should you watch this movie? I think if you like Star Wars, or even if you are not that big into Star Wars, if you like sci-fi or anything, I think you should watch this movie.
Yeah.
I think if you haven't seen it in a while, or if you have been holding off seeing it, I would watch it and see honestly what you think. Like, don't let what other people say, sway it. Just give it a watch. It's on Disney Plus in great 4K.
Yeah.
You have a 4K TV, even if you don't, it looks fantastic right now on that. I would say watch it. What do you think?
Yeah, I would also recommend watching it with the animated TV show, the Clone Wars.
Oh yeah.
If you could like splice them together, that'd be amazing. Do Attack of Clones, Clone Wars, and the Revenge of the Sith. That'd be, do it that way. But no, I think if you like Star Wars, if you want, the full story, I guess, I'd say watch it. You might not like it, but I think you should still watch it.
All right. So right now, what we wanted to talk about in this week's Shooting the Shit, which if you don't know, it's just basically where we just kind of select one topic to just kind of talk about, not necessarily review, just talk about it, see, what our thoughts are on it and stuff like that. What we want to talk about this week for Shooting the Shit is that this week was the 1-year anniversary of the series finale of Game of Thrones. Now, obviously, Game of Thrones was widely regarded as one of the greatest, if not by some, the greatest television show of all time. Definitely one of the best HBO shows, definitely probably the best fantasy show of all time. And then the final season happened. And it was basically just like a downward spiral into hell, death, and destruction. And a lot of people did not like it. A lot of people were very upset. And I think a lot of that goes back to the whole idea of fan expectations. And that's kind of what we wanted to talk about, was what our expectations were from the last season of Game of Thrones and how it kind of measured up to it in the end. So why don't you start off? Tell me, what were you expecting from the last season of Game of Thrones going into the last season last year?
I'm trying to picture what happened. Like, I know what happened. I'm just trying to picture it because it was last year. I haven't watched it since then. I feel like not nobody, but a lot of people disagree with the decisions the showrunners made. I was expecting, I don't know, just to be not shocked. I don't know, because I guess I was shocked. I was just expecting something more, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when we were watching it, we watched it in the theater with a few other of our friends. And I remember because I think it was like it was like an empty theater. We were all like yelling because we were like, "That's not what's supposed to happen." Granted, who are we to say what's supposed to happen? Because obviously we don't run the show, and the books aren't finished. So almost it leaves it open ended to whatever they wanted to do. But yeah, I remember. I think it was like the first 5 because of 7 seasons.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. The first 5 seasons. Actually, no. First 6 seasons, I thought great. Like loved it. Because I remember binging it to catch up to the 7th when the 7th was just about to start. And then when the 7th, it just felt rushed. Which I think what everybody's gonna say is that HBO, or I think showrunners, because HBO wanted more seasons, and the showrunners like, no, we want to do different stuff, so we're gonna end it. It just felt like they were moving too quickly. I wanted just a better ending. Like I don't know. It didn't sour the TV like the show for me in general, because I can look back at all the other seasons and be like, oh, those were good seasons. Like that was quality television, which HBO is very much known for at this point, is they produce quality TV, which like The Sopranos, Watchmen, The Wire.
Also, I just want to take a quick second, just say it was 8 seasons, which maybe is some indication on how memorable it all was.
Yeah.
That we thought it was 7.
No, I barely remember what happened. Like also, I know what characters survived and what didn't, but I don't remember how we got there exactly.
Well, also the thing is that it didn't even feel like 8 seasons because it was so rushed. You know what I mean? Like it really felt like something that the story that was told between like season 7 and 8 really could have been like half a regular season. You know what I mean? And they kind of like, it's weird because it's like, I think if you told less story, you could have wrapped it up. But I think with the story they did tell, they needed like twice the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say it was. I just remembered it was only. I just looked it up. Sorry, it was only 6 episodes.
Yeah, like if you had streamlined it to the end, like if you had made like, okay, a lot of people are expecting like maybe John will end up on the throne or Danny will end up on the throne. If you had just done that and the show ended with they defeated the White Walkers, they defeated Cersei, Danny or John's on the throne, boom, you could have ended it in season 7. But you added, and I don't know if this was George R.R. Martin or if this was Dan and Dave doing this, the showrunners, but you added like 4 additional twists and turns to it, and you still tried to wrap it up really quickly. It's like you either go with the simplest thing and then you can tell it in less episodes, or you have to, if you're gonna put all those plot turns, you have to give it the episodes to breathe. You know what I mean? Like, you went with the most complicated conclusion and gave it the least amount of time, which I just don't understand that. Like, I don't understand where the decision making came from that. I have no idea. But I mean, I will say, for me at least, to wrap this up, I would say retrospective 1 year later on the Game of Thrones finale, I'm still pissed. Is how I would say. Is what I would say. I would say I think, and I would even consider that I didn't hate it as much as other people, and I'm still disappointed because it just felt so like it's kind of like, I would say, Star Wars Episode 9, where it's like all right, you're getting there. What's this conclusion going to be? And then you're like, oh, I could have written
yeah, exactly.
It's like, I don't know. I'm not obviously I am exaggerating. I'm not saying I've written Star Wars or Game of Thrones, but I'm saying like it's just one of those. And I fully understand that. I watched the documentary. You know, I almost cried watching the documentary on the making of the final season. I I support and appreciate all the hard work that everybody did on that show and everything. I'm not bashing anyone. I'm just saying I think for what they planned out, I'm saying what they planned out, it looked beautiful. It was a great product and everything. But for what they planned out, I just think it was the wrong direction to go. Yeah. I just think it was so, like, when you have a big moment, like choosing who is going to sit on the Iron Throne or roll in the Iron Throne, and then you have this great moving speech by Tyrion, who is Peter Dinklage, nominated countless times for that show, and you have this great, rousing, moving speech, and then at the end when he chooses Bran, people that I'm watching with literally burst out laughing when they saw that happen. That's bad. You have a bad situation on your hands. You know what I mean? It's so all over the place. Like, it just felt so like a rush to the finish. But I don't know. That's my thoughts. And what would be your final thoughts on it?
I'm definitely not going to say they should do it over, because I feel like I've seen that a decent amount when the season ended.
Release the Martin cut.
I just think it was a not great ending to a terrific show, basically. I just wish it wasn't rushed.
Yeah, so Game of Thrones finale 1 year later, not much has changed. Maybe give it another year and we'll see.
Yeah. Do you want to go off on Tenet real quick about the trailer thing?
Yeah, so the thing with Tenet that I just don't understand. And we'll talk more about Tenet in our last segment coming up here, the final order. But I just wanted to go off on my bit about it first, and then I'll let TJ talk about what he wants to talk about. My thing with releasing the trailer on Fortnite is you have this legendary, and I would call him legendary director in Christopher Nolan, who is known for having weight to throw around Warner Brothers, you know what I mean? Getting his way most of the time, completely rightfully earned. His movies are fantastic. Made their most successful Batman franchise ever. You know what I mean? He basically could run Warner Brothers if he really wanted to throw his full weight around. But he is so adamant about theatrical release trailers, and then I don't know if his people let it happen, if it was because of the lockdowns that he said, all right, well, this one time, or if this was a thing that Warner Brothers kind of like hoodwinked him on, you know what I mean? Like kind of sandbagged him with. And was like,
gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. Like if they pulled the okey doke on him.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, it's like, Chris, it's not going to be Chris, it's not going to be a online release. Don't worry. Like, we're not releasing it straight to YouTube. It'll go somewhere first. Oh, all right. Sounds good. You know what I mean? and then they release it in Fortnite, and all the videos of people watching it, there's people shooting like flaming arrows and like shooting up the screen, laying like C4 on it and stuff. And like, how is he not okay with putting it on YouTube? But somehow the trailer for Tenet went on Fortnite. That is what I just cannot understand. I am just beside myself with that concept. I just think it is the dumbest thing in the world, and I know that Fortnite is doing a lot of stuff. Like,
a lot of events. We got Travis Scott concert. We got
the Palpatine message.
That's what,
basically the opening crawl said, in Fortnite, a voice has been heard. But I don't know. It just bugged the crap out of me. But with that, in just a moment here, we're going to get to what TJ has to say about it. But we just wanted to get into the final segment here, which every week the final segment is the final order, which is where one of us will put a topic out there, and we want to get your reactions to it. So last week, what I talked about was the fact that, in my opinion, I thought that Tron Legacy was a movie that was kind of unfairly criticized by people. I feel like it was a movie that had more worth and merit than it is given credit for. And so I went off on my final order last week, and I sent the call out to you guys to send in your thoughts with some voice clips to let us know what you thought about either just the movie as a whole or my thoughts on it and my concept of the fact that, you know, I thought it deserved more praise than it's getting. And we actually got a couple of submissions here. The first one, the big one here, is from Mr. Matt Nost of the Top 10 podcast. Matt Nost himself was kind enough to lend his time to send us a short video message with his thoughts on Tron Legacy. So we're going to go ahead and play that for you guys now.
Well, hello, Sean and TJ. First off, thanks for reaching out to ask me to be a part of the podcast. I thoroughly appreciate it. Always down to talk movies. And today, I guess you guys are talking about one that a lot of us were hotly anticipating when it was coming out, which is Tron Legacy. I saw it as a kid. It was on, Saturday afternoon kind of TV. And that's where the first time I saw it, when you see like a Tron battling it out, whatnot, with the disc wars. It was the coolest thing in the entire world, and I loved it as a kid. Going back to watch it as an adult, it still has a lot of charm, but it's one of those premises that you see that the update on it would more than likely be somewhat seamless to now, because everybody's that much more fluent in computers, and the idea of being trapped, in a silicon world is I guess something that the average person can wrap their minds around a little bit better, as opposed to back in the day. And the build up to this was relatively big. It's not like it was ever going to be the biggest blockbuster in the world, but it had legs. The premise seemed strong. The early visuals looked really cool, slick, and interesting. You knew they had Daft Punk on board for the soundtrack, so that seemed like a nice seamless marriage between the two. Solid casting. You're bringing back actors from the past to refill their roles, and the marriage between old and new held a lot of promise. And walking out of it, it felt unfulfilling. I didn't dislike the film, and I have watched it since more times than I actually would have imagined at this point, because I go back for very specific scenes, and I'm a huge fan of the soundtrack. I listened to that, off and on for 2 years, because it was good. Like, listened to it when I was working out and doing all these random things where I just kind of needed to focus and zone, and it takes me back to specific moments within the movie itself. So then I would go back and rewatch those scenes. In like the bike race, the light bike race, or whatever they call them, is exceptionally cool in this. And some of the disc wars are, really cool as well. They get a little confusing. The first time I saw it in 3D, and there was a point at which when the entire playing field goes inverts, and I had no idea what in the world was going on, because the 3D was just so overwhelming. So that depreciated my, initial take on that stretch of scenes. But going back now, all these years later, and having seen it a number of times, it's good. I still think that they could make another one and actually turn it into something good. This wasn't so awful that it's destroyed the entire franchise or soured me on the potential of another of these movies. I think you could get a nice little franchise out of it. And I understand why Disney kind of had pinned a small amount of hopes onto that. Like, if you went to Disneyland, they had a small little Tron Legacy world, and it seemed as though they were anticipating potentially this could do well, and we could turn it into part of our overall tapestry of what we have to offer here. I don't know what the budget on it was. I'd have to go back, or I'd have to go and look right now, which I'm not going to do. But so long as in the budget, isn't crazy, and it's not like Jeff Bridges' contract would be so much, and who knows on the next one that if they'd even bring him back, because the de-aging to make him into Clue was a little ridiculous. I think that's where it lost me more often than not, is every time they brought him in. I didn't mind him as this like Phil Jackson, Zen guru type of guy that's kind of had to find his calm center in order to deal with the impossible odds of him ever getting out of here, and just coming to the realization that to some degree this is my prison, and reconcile that reality and still try and do good by saving, the Olivia Wilde character and at least preserving that one individual. And that's the other thing, that her storyline felt a little convoluted, I guess, at times. I don't know. Maybe perhaps there is something ultimately there. And, obviously if they're going to do a sequel to Legacy coming out, then you'd have to bring her and that storyline back. But who knows? Maybe they go Terminator on this and they dark fade it and just act as though nothing happened in between and redo it entirely. I don't know, but I think there's still potential there. Do I think it's a great movie? No. But do I think it's enjoyable? Yes. It's got a lot of fun moments, and it's interesting visually, and it's got a very strong sense of style and understanding of the, visually what it's trying to convey. I just think some of the story gets a little muddy at times.
All right, so I would just want to thank again Matt Nost for taking the time to send that in to us. Obviously there he didn't fully agree with me, but it's great to hear his thoughts, and that's exactly what this is supposed to be. You can agree with us, you can disagree with us, you can just give your thoughts. We just want to hear from you guys, the listeners, what you think of the final orders that we give every week. So the next clip that we have is from a listener of the show, Marin, who was kind enough to also send us in a clip giving her thoughts on my take on the movie and a couple of her thoughts of that. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and play that for you guys now.
I don't totally disagree with you, Sean. I think that you make a lot of good points about, it's visually stunning. It stands up really, really well for the age of the film. And, it's got an excellent cast, excellent score. Daft Punk's in the movie and composed the score for the entire film, which is great, and the music is amazing. But I think Garrett Hedlund was kind of flat. Olivia Wilde was a little flat, with the supporting cast being so good with Michael Sheen and the other supporting cast members. I think that they did themselves a bit of a disservice with that casting. But overall, I just think it's a lot of flash and not a lot of originality and substance in the plotline. It's just kind of a combination of lackluster writing, standing on the shoulders of The Fifth Element and Blade Runner to pull its style and its aesthetic and the way that the characters in the grid interact with each other. And then just throw in your typical Oedipal storyline of son realizes father is not who he thought he was, and then son can't become the man he's supposed to be until dad dies or sacrifices himself. So I don't know. I think Tron Legacy was good. I think it was an all right movie. I wouldn't say that it was an incredible piece of filmmaking. It was really cool looking. It was fun to watch, but not a whole lot going on the inside, I think.
All right, so that was Marin's clip for it. Now, another thing that she did write in her email attachment that she also wanted to add that she did not record was another thing that really bothers her about it is the de-aging technology. She just really thought that it stuck out like a sore thumb. It being one of the earliest uses of the de-aging technology on film. Obviously it's quite jarring when you take a look at, the flashback scenes and the scenes with Clue. But that was Marin's thoughts. So that was the recap of last week's final order. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and let TJ give his final order for this week's edition of the Planet Film podcast.
So basically, I'm just going to kind of bounce off you. So what you said about the Tenet thing. Mm-hmm. So basically, I was also puzzled how this happened. So I'm actually going to try to defend the action. Not that it's ridiculous or anything.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that this was going to be a defensive, Wow. Okay. All right.
Okay. So I was looking around because I Googled it. And I was like, how did this come about? So I found that, so his name's Donald Mustard. He's the worldwide creative director at Epic. at Epic Games who does Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
So he put out a tweet on May 21st, and it reads, "The idea of debuting the Tenet trailer came from a phone call with Christopher Nolan. We were all talking about our love of seeing new trailers in a theater and how sad we were that we can't do that right now, but how maybe this could be the next best thing. Hope you love it." And then he replies to himself and says, "When we do anything like this, it's always born and driven from a relationship between creatives trying to bring something we think is awesome to life." And scrolling through his Twitter feed, I could see that he seemed to be a very big fan of Batman, and he also was just a big fan of Nolan in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm arguing that I think you almost maybe broaden the demographic by showing the trailer in Fortnite. Granted, I know like you have people throwing stuff and like that in the game, which I don't know why they didn't turn that off, because like I did like the Travis Scott concert thing in the game, and they had everything turned off. So I don't know what the decision was to like have things like be like you can like throw things at the screen and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if no one had a problem with it, it wouldn't have happened. I think I want to say it was more his choice because, as you said, he has weight to throw around. So in my opinion, it's not like Warner Bros. Is telling him that he's like, okay, you're gonna debut this on Fortnite, and you're not gonna have any say about it.
Yeah.
I feel like in my opinion, it may be better for the movie. You have, like I said, I don't know what the age demographic of Fortnite is. I can't imagine it's like all adults and everybody wants to see Tenet. But maybe you have some kids that are talking to their parents like, oh, maybe I want to go see Fortnite, which you might bring, you could bring in a bigger box office that way. As we know, like it said, it's not coming to VOD. But I feel like just in general, I think it could be good for the movie. Obviously, you don't agree with me on that one, but I think it could be better.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I don't agree. It's just that I think, I guess I would say, I just, in my opinion, I just feel it's a little hypocritical to be adamant that that he is so of the belief of maintaining the theater going experience. The only thing I can think of is maybe like he doesn't fully understand what Fortnite is.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they were like, "Hey, this is a video game, with a drive-in in it, and people can virtually go to the drive-in and watch your trailer." And he was like, "Oh, that's great." You know what I mean? Like, yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean? Without like fully understanding what it was. I mean, I don't really know.
Well, the other thing to build on my argument, I guess, if you want to say, is that they're also showing a movie in the game at some point, which apparently has been agreed upon already. Which again, that I don't know. They haven't said what movie it was. Like, I doubt it'll be like, what is it, Memento? Like, I don't think it'll be that.
Yeah.
It might be like probably like Interstellar or Inception.
The Prestige or something. Yeah. Maybe not The Prestige. Yeah.
But it's just like a different way to, I guess, get content out there. If you think like, I mean, it's out on YouTube, but if you put it on something like Fortnite, you're just broadening the demographic that you're hitting. I mean, maybe it didn't have to premiere on Fortnite. But I do like the fact, I kind of like the fact that we're kind of mixing, I don't even know what to say, mixing platforms, I guess, per se, if that makes sense.
All right. Well, I mean, that's the final order for this week. Let us know. Send in your video clips. We have the official email for the podcast in the episode description. And we are on YouTube as well in the video feed. So, check us out on YouTube. We have, the video version of the podcast on there for you. You can take a look at our terrible faces if that's the kind of thing you're into. But yeah, let us know. Send us in at the email or, tweet at us at Planet Film Pod on Twitter and let us know. Do you agree? Do you think that the Tenet trailer premiering in Fortnite was a good thing for the movie, a good thing for Fortnite, or a bad thing for everyone involved? whatever your thoughts are, go ahead and send us, just a 2 to 3 minute video or audio clip of or video clip, whatever you want to do, of your thoughts on the Tenet trailer premiering in Fortnite. And let us know. And with that, I think that'll do it for this week's episode of the Planet Film Podcast. Always remember, stay safe. And do you want to close us out with the last line?
I don't remember the last line.
Oh, do you have the notes?
No, I don't have it up.
Oh, my God. All right. Well, that was the fail. Maybe we'll get it next week. But, hey, remember, stay safe. Live your life 1/4 mile at a time. We'll catch you in the next one.